face? I mean, come on, you see it. Reckless and full of wrecks. Let's go.
What up, what up? Welcome to the stream, everybody. Welcome to the stream. I appreciate you guys stopping by. Hope you guys are having a good day. I hope you guys have an even better night. Oh! Bro, who in...
Sending out a decoy. She got bamboozled.
Bro. It's been a minute since I played Apex. I am rusty, boys and girls. I'm rusty. Yeah. I'm not that bad, though.
Give him my shield to recharge. Marking our surroundings.
Brother. Did they take away, aim assist? That's the only way I'm good to be good, is this aim assist.
Throwing jump pad.
But we're winning? That's crazy. I'm teamed up with some killers, bro. If we're ahead and I've only got one kill.
Legends taught me everything I know. You? Not so much.
Recharging my shields.
Need to recharge my shields.
Taking a moment to recharge my shields.
You might still live on. I've seen ghosts around here.
Marking our surroundings.
Yeah, nah, you did good. Artist did gooder.
Scanning the area. Making contact with enemy. Recharging my shields.
Heads up, they're gonna take this win.
Bro, like, help a brother out.
Yeah, nah, you did good. Artist did gooder.
What's up, Rufus? Don't know yet, brother. I'm not gonna be teaching the class very much this class, brother. I got a surgery scheduled here in the next couple weeks here soon. I'm gonna get it scheduled on Tuesday. I got diagnosed with brain cancer on Friday, so I gotta take care of that. The classes, it's all right. They're quieter than you guys were, but they were all right. Yeah. I mean, I'm doing all right, brother. I'm doing all right. It's not the most fun thing to experience, but I know where I'm going when I die if I don't make it through this, but they caught it early. They're gonna take the tumor out of my cerebellum and then start chemo and radiation for the nodules that were found in
Listen, I've been training
the middle
all
of
day,
my
so
brain.
it's about time
So
we do some fighting.
we keep pressing.
These rings aren't just to
We're a
get
little.
around.
It's been 24 hours since I found out. 36 hours, so we're still in that shock phase. So
Dirty deeds need doing.
we'll
I'll do 'em dirt cheap.
trying to make sure that I don't get overwhelmed, panic. It's hard though. Very hard. I appreciate it, brother. I appreciate it. It means a lot. I got a lot of people praying for me.
Class 3,
I can't do anything but survive this.
Bam goes the boozle.
Oh, that's tough.
This never gets any easier. But it's how the game works.
Dang, bro.
I didn't say I mended broken hearts.
I'm not
I
even
said I
feeling
would.
Apex right now, bro. I'm not feeling much of. I'm just feeling. I don't know, maybe some Rocket League, bro. Maybe some Rocket League. I just don't have the. It's been a while since I've played. That's tough, bro. That's tough, brother. Mm.
Could anything ever be better than this? And I wonder, are you and I more than a passing eclipse? Days in the sky, the sun and the moon are shining in your eyes. Looking at you like shooting stars when your atmosphere. Love the way it feels, yeah. Like strangers in the night, we get close but never
Yo, yo, what's up, Long Wash? How you doing, brother? Appreciate you stopping by. Appreciate you stopping by. Dang, bro. Hmm. Yeah, I'm having a rough day. A couple days. Got diagnosed with um some brain cancer, so we're actually gonna chill. I don't have the motivation to play. don't have the motivation to play anything right now. Nothing is satisfying me, so we're gonna watch some YouTube here. We're gonna watch a couple YouTube videos, and we're gonna react to some of those.
Really well. So I take with a B pawn capturing towards the.
All right. So we're that's what we're gonna do. It will get better. You just gotta wait for surgery to happen, and then after surgery, then we'll get.
Center following the basic principles. Of course,
All right. We're gonna watch some of Hikaru Nakamura's video here. Right. This is Hikaru Nakamura and Anish Giri. They're in the Norway Chess Cup League, Norway Chess something today. So we're gonna just watch some of his stuff here.
D takes c6 is also playable. So I take, Anish decides to castle, I go bishop d7, and now he plays rook e1. Here I go queen to c7, and Anish plays the move d3. Now, in the past, Anish played this move c3 against the former world champion, Magnus Carlsen, but because I had seen this game and obviously was well prepared, he decides instead to deviate by playing this move d3. So after
He
seeing
said
this game and obviously was well prepared,
I would never do that. Even think about doing pawn to c3, bro. I'd be just starting to set up this triangle here. I'm not good enough to do that.
he decides instead to deviate by playing this move d3. So after d3, I play e5, and now the point is really illustrated here behind why I played queen c7 to begin with, which is I want to guard this pawn on e5. Now, it'd be easy to play e5, say knight c3 here, and try to play knight f6, but then you would hang the pawn on e5. Additionally, if you play e5 too early, white can play c3 and d4 and strike in the center immediately. So I go queen c7, Anish plays d3, I go e5, and now he plays c3. Now what you'll notice here is that Anish intends to build a big white center with pawn to d4, but he has already wasted a tempo by pushing the pawn to d3. It would be far more optimal to go c3 and d4 in one go versus sort of the stutter step with d3, c3, and then d4, because you play 1-2 as opposed to going d2, d4 in one move. So I play knight to f6, Anish goes d4, we trade the pawns, I take, he takes back, and now I castle. Now fortunately for me, I had reviewed this line in depth before the game, so we are currently following a very prominent game that was played during one of the previous Champions Chess Tour events between Alireza Firouzja, the talented Iranian-French junior player.
Yeah, what's up, Music Media? I'm just watching the recap from Hikaru Nakamura and Anish Giri. than their match today in Norway chess. I watched a little bit of it earlier this afternoon, but I didn't watch the whole thing because it's classical chess, so it's quite boring, to say the least, if you are a spectator, to be honest. I like the rapid tournaments. Those are fun because it's action after action, but classical chess is, I think it's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. I think classical chess is very beautiful. I think it's the most beautiful game mode, or not game mode, time constraint of chess for sure. But as a spectator, you can only spectate so much of it, of classical chess. So that's why I kind of just checked in to see what was going on, and then I'm gonna watch this. So,
and of course, Pragnananta from India. So after castles, we get knight to c3, and here I play the move queen to b6. Now, you'd love to develop with a move like d6, but after bishop f4, let's just say rook d8, for example, and rook a d1, out of nowhere, there's a lot of pressure towards this pawn on d6, and white is already a little bit better here. So following in the footsteps of the great Pragnananta, I play queen b6 here, trying to trade off the queens, because in the long run, I have the two bishops, and the bishop should be better than the bishop and knight combo. So Anish trades the queens, and now he plays this move e5. It's worth noting that at this point, white has to prove that he has something in return for the two bishops, because long term, if I can develop normally, the bishops will just be a better combination than the bishop and the knight. So for example, say white plays h3 here. Already I can play d5.
Yeah, I appreciate. That's crazy music media.
It's great scope, great diagonals. My rooks are doing really, really well. The rook on a8 in particular.
It's incredible what the human spirit
and the rook
can
on
do.
a1. And these bishops
people
are really
just
nice.
trying to show support.
So white has to do
I
something
greatly
quickly to sort of
that.
counteract the bishop pair. And
hopefully,
prove that
once
there's
I get
something
done
to play
with,
for.
hopefully once I get done with this surgery here, and I get back to being my old self, I can give the people what they deserve for supporting me. So I do greatly appreciate everything that everyone did yesterday for me. So it's crazy how people can just be awesome sometimes in the crazy chaotic world. They can be awesome.
So Anish plays e5 here, removing my knight from the center, and now I have to go knight e8. I'd love to go knight d5, but after takes, and say bishop e3, I have a weakness on b6. Let's say I go rook e8, white can just take, and after rook b8, bishop d4, we have the classic wooden shield here, with the bishop on d4 guarding everything. So I play knight e8 here, keeping my pawn structure intact. Anish goes bishop e3, targeting the pawn on b6. Here I play rook to a6, not pawn to b5, because after bishop to c5, I would lose either the rook or I'd have to push the pawn. And after pawn takes, white simply is up a pawn here and much better. So I decide to play rook a6, guarding the pawn from the side. Anish goes rook a d1, and now I play f6 to chip away at this pawn on e5. In a perfect world, I'd love to go pawn to d5 here, and after, say, h3, I can go knight c7, a3, knight e6, and down the road with moves like rook d8, bishop b7, and eventually c5, followed by d4, building a big black center, as well as a chain of pawns. Black is much, much better, if not winning. The problem, of course, is some years ago, a couple hundred years ago to be precise, we introduced this new rule into the game of chess called en peasant, also known as en passant. Now, that means that if I were to play pawn to d5 here, white can play pawn takes pawn, and white is just up a pawn here because the rook guards the pawn. Now, this, of course, is commonly known as a glitch move in chess, but it does exist. So while I would love to play d5, I have to remember it's currently the 21st century. It is not the 1700s. I'm not a Highlander. Things change. So I decide to play f6 instead, trying to remove this pawn from e5. Anish goes bishop to d4, and now I take. Now, worth noting, up to this point, I'm still in my preparation here. I looked at this before the game, so I'm feeling very good. Now, bishop d4 is the first original move from me. I had looked at bishop f4 before the game, takes, and then d5. So when Anish goes bishop d4,
they're
I use
doing
about
all
a
right.
minute or two here trying to figure out,
they're
is
doing
there
a little
some
bit better
difference
than
between bishop...
They're doing a little bit better than last night, but still not down in the dumps. But it's stressful, so it's hard to Hard to keep the head up. Head up. Why is this? This. That's no good. Where? There we go. Let's see your big, beautiful face in its glory, Hikaru Nakamura. What do you want?
I'm not a Highlander. I things change. So I decided to play F6 instead, trying to remove his pawn from E5. Dude. Anish goes bishop
Give
to
the
D4,
people what they
and now
want.
I take. Now, worth noting, up to this point, I'm still in my preparation here. I looked at this before the game, so I'm feeling very good. Now, bishop D4 is the first original move from me. I had looked at bishop F4 before the game, takes, and then D5. So when Anish goes bishop D4, I use about a minute or two here trying to figure out, is there some difference between bishop to D4 and bishop to F4? And at the end of the day, after using about 2 minutes, I'm like, okay, whatever. This is just stupid. Stop trying to come up with some creative idea. It doesn't matter. Just go back into your preparation with the transposition. So I trade the pawns, I go D5, and I'm back in my preparation once again. And now, of course, I have this nice set of pawns on B6, C6, and D5. The light square bishop can go to G4 or to F5, and there's a lot of scope.
I
so
suppose once you get to the Grandmaster level, you forget that en passant is forced.
And now I go bishop to B7, guarding the pawn on C6. And here Anish plays this move A4. Now, I believe in the game between Firouzja and Praggnanandhaa, I think A3 was played, and after knight F5 here, black was doing completely fine, but Anish decides to play A4. So after A4, I now go knight to F5, and one of the reasons I don't love this A4 move per se is that now there's a very clear problem for white. If you play a move like H3, I can go D4, attacking the knight on C3. If you move the knight, I'd simply gobble the pawn on A4, or even just play C5 and create the connect 3. So here Anish goes knight to F3 to prevent D4, and now I play this move C5. And this is a very important move and important moment in the game, because at this point I was currently up 45 minutes on the clock. I'm cruising through preparation, feeling good about myself, and I was trying to figure out if there was a way to keep the big black center intact and play for more. Now, I very briefly did consider rook A8 to play rook A E8 or rook A D8, but I felt that after B4, with the idea of B5 to undermine this chain of 2 pawns here, that white should not really be in any danger of losing. And if white's not in any danger of losing, why do I want to play something where the game continues on versus instantly forcing what I perceive to be a draw? So I decided to play C5, first real thing of the game, using about 12 minutes here, and Anish takes the pawn. Now, one of the drawbacks of playing A4 here is that now after takes, I can take the pawn, whereas if we go back a couple of moves, if white goes A3, knight F5, knight F3 here, C5 is not a move because after takes, the pawns are simply guarded on B2 and A3. So by going A4, knight F5, knight F3, and C5, now the game peters out to a draw very quickly. Anish takes the pawn on D5, I gobble the pawn on A4, he takes on B6, and now I play this very precise move, rook B4, attacking both the knight on B6 and the pawn on B2. Anish plays knight D7. Now he could have played knight D5 too, but after rook takes B2, once again, we both have 3 pawns on the board, material is even, and the game should end pretty soon. Worth noting, also potentially there's some threats for me towards his pawn on F2, creating the classic T-bone. So here Anish plays knight D7, I take the knight, he takes back, and while white is temporarily up a pawn here, his pawns on the king side are very weak, in particular this double stack on F2 and F3. Now here again, staying precise, I play knight to H4, sacrificing the rook on F8 here, but it's not a true sacrifice because when Anish captures, I take the pawn on F3 with check, forking his king and his rook, he moves the king, we swap here. Worth noting, if white were to play king F1, for example, after knight takes rook and rook to D8, it looks mildly scary at first, but I can just go knight to F3, and white has no good fossils. If you play knight to E6, I go king F7. After knight C5, let's just say knight H2, king G2, and knight G4. With such limited material here, rook, knight, and 2 pawns for each side, this should be a draw very soon. If white decides to play something like knight to D7, I simply go
would
king to
hang
G7
mate
once
4
again,
different
and
times
it's the same
before
thing.
I
Both the
drew
pawns
at
on
this
B2
level,
and
bro.
H2 are hanging, and the game will be a draw. So because of this, Anish decides, you know what, I'm going to force a draw. He goes king G2, I take the rook with check, takes, rook E5 here, I play rook takes pawn. If I go C4 here, white can play rook to E4, pinning the pawn laterally. If I take, we get the same endgame with rook and 2 versus rook and 2. And if I play king F7, white now goes B3. I can't take with the pawn because then I lose my rook. And when I take with the rook, white takes the pawn, and again, we have the same classic draw and endgame. So I take on B2, Anish takes on C5, play a few more moves here, nothing really to comment on, and eventually we make a repetition here, and the game ends in a draw. So we draw our classical game, a very good result for me with the black pieces. Of course, it would have been nice to get more chances, but I was rock solid. Anish didn't really go wild, and the game ends in a draw. So this means we both are ensured that we have 1 point. But now, of course, this means we move to our second game and the classic Clown Fiesta,
brother,
or the
Leafy, you take it easy.
Armageddon, as we call
take
it,
it
where
easy, brother.
Anish will repeat again with the white pieces. I will the black pieces. Anish gets 10 minutes. I get 7 minutes. No increment until move 40. And if the game is not a win for white, if I draw or I win, I will get an extra half point. So we're both guaranteed 1 point, and we now play for the extra half point. So Anish opens with e4 again, and this time I decide to play e5. Now, there isn't any rhyme or reason to playing e5, but I felt that after playing the Sicilian, Anish probably had more time to review, and you want to keep him a little bit more off balance. So I play e5. We get knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, and now I play knight f6, playing the classic Berlin defense. Anish castles, I take, goes d4, knight to d6, and now Anish takes knight on c6. Now, one funny thing did happen, and there might be people who can freeze frame it if they were covering the game live on the broadcast, which is when I played knight d6, Anish for a split second tried to pretend that he was going to take the pawn on e5, and then he decided to take on c6. Now, this could have been subconscious, but in my mind, I think it was an attempt to play a mental trick, because after pawn takes pawn, knight takes bishop a4, this generally leads to a classic force-drawn endgame here, where we get this repetition in the center of the board that everyone is familiar with, where the game is a draw. So I don't know if it was like he was just sort of his finger failure, or like he was trying to trick me, or what was going on, but it did catch my attention. It was very, very brief. So Anish ends up taking on c6. I take back. He plays pawn takes pawn, and now I go knight to f5. Now here, of course, we have the classic Berlin endgame with the queens off the board on move number 8. Now, this endgame, very prominent, was featured heavily in the World Championship match in the year 2001 between Garry Kasparov from Russia and Vladimir Kramnik, also from Russia, where Kasparov in multiple games tried to beat this Berlin defense, this Berlin wall. He went into this endgame. At the end of the day, he was unable to tear down that wall, as Mr. Reagan would say all those years ago. And at the end of the day, Kramnik would end up breaking through Gary's defenses when Kramnik had the white pieces, and he would become the world champion. Now, ever since then, this has been considered one of the main variations, one of the main openings in chess, and even 20 years later, it's still considered to be rock solid, just like that wall that stood for so many years. So after king takes d8, we get h3. I play bishop d7, rook d1, and now I go bishop to e7. Anish plays g4, and now I play knight to h4, trying to trade off a set of knights. Now again, in this endgame, generally what happens is black tries to argue he has the two bishops, and even though you have a slightly compromised pawn structure, because queens are off the board, your king is in the center, all these things should give black enough counterplay. So Anish goes knight d2, I play bishop e7, plays knight to e4, and now I go king d8. Now, it's worth noting, because I have the double pawns on c7 and c6, white can also try to create this massive pawn majority in the center of the board, the h, g, f, and e pawns running down the board. But you do have to be very careful, because if white plays f4 too early, if you're a little bit too premature with this move, I can now play h5, and after, say, g5, you lose the pawn, or I can play bishop f5, targeting the knight on e4 and the pawn on c2. And if you play knight to f2, after takes rook h4, suddenly your pawn on g4 is very weak. After f5, bishop c5, it's very hard to protect this chain of 2. Also worth noting, after h5, f5, takes rook h4, well, I guess, yeah, there isn't anything except knight f2 for a second. I thought there was, but you can't really push f4 right away. Now, the reason this is important is because now after bishop f4 is played, if I play h5 trying to undermine the chain of pawns, white will go f3. And long term, what happens is white wants to, say, run the king up to g3, and then eventually prepare to play f4 and f5 anyway. So, in this position, I play bishop to e6 instead. We get b3. Now I go a5, trying to open up the a file potentially. Anish plays rook d3, a4, rook a d1, and now here I play this move h6. Now, the reason that I play h6 here is really sort of prophylactic. Mainly, if I play a move like, let's just say, king f8, white can go knight to g5, trying to trade off the knight for the bishop, or bishop g5, trading off the bishops. And so when I play h6, I stop both of these trades on the g5 square. Anish goes knight g3, I play g6, trying to stop knight f5. Worth noting, if I go king f8, knight f5, and trade, even though white has double pawns, it's very similar to that other structure where white has these menacing pawns in the center. You can create the kebab on the 7th rank, and white is simply close to winning. So I play g6, stopping knight to f5 or knight to h5. Anish goes back to e4, king f8, bishop e3. I play b6 here, knight c3, we trade, and now I go king g7. So I've manually castled my king out of the center of the board, and already here I was feeling very, very good about my chances until Anish's next move, which was knight to e2. Now keep in mind, as you look at the clocks, I'm only down a minute and a half here. So in my mind, I'm thinking, if I can keep the time closed, we get down to like 1 minute, 2 minutes towards the end of the game, no increment. I perceive myself to be a better blitz player than Anish. I feel like I can make more moves on the spot. Obviously, I haven't proven that in some of my other Armageddon games thus far, but I felt like that's the most important thing. So already here, I'm feeling very good, but when Anish goes knight e2 with the idea of knight f4, knight d4, I start to panic here, and it's very difficult here because you don't know, do you use 30 seconds here, a minute here, do you use 2 seconds, what do you do? And I end up playing this move, bishop c8, after a nearly 1 minute think. Now, it's very, very tough because h5 is the correct move, but it's very easy to get scared by knight f4, because if I take after trade and rook d7, uh-oh, spaghetti-o, we have the kebab on the 7th, there's bishop g5 with the pin, and out of nowhere, I'm suddenly losing because of Castle Mania on the 7th rank as well. So after h5, knight f4, computer says after bishop c8, black is okay, but again, you get very scared because there's e6 and suddenly bishop d4, all kinds of tricks here, and you start feeling really, really concerned, and I don't have the time to where I can think 5 or 10 minutes and try to work out the tactics. So if I'm wrong and there's a tactic here, I'm just cooked like a goose. But if I'm right, of course, and I play this, then I would have been okay. But at any rate, I was very worried, so I use a minute. I play bishop c8, just dodging the threats with the knight going to either f4 or d4. But now after c4, it feels very, very difficult to play. So I play rook e8, Anish goes king g2. I play bishop f8, which is a mistake. Probably I should have gone bishop h4 here. And after white plays f4, now I can play this very unusual looking move f5. Because if white takes, I simply take back with the bishop. I have rook to a2. My rook on the e file is very, very well placed here. And I shouldn't have too many problems. But again, with limited time, I'm trying not to blunder. And so I play bishop f8 here.
All right, so he goes bishop f8 to put pressure on that pawn right there. What is black going to do? Black is going to probably go f4 to protect it, or with the bishop, or f4 with the pawn, pushing that to create those connections there. White might go I would go b7, potentially with the bishop, or infiltrate with the yeah, I don't know.
Trying to win the pawn at e5, but now Anish plays king g3, which is an excellent move. And the reason now that bishop f8 is so much worse than bishop h4 is that if I play f6 here after takes, it's not my bishop on f6, but it's my king on f6 here. And even though the computer thinks this is completely fine, walking up with my king here into the line of fire on the f file, it just doesn't feel right. Now again, if I had a lot of time, probably I would have been able to calculate this and realize that there aren't any issues. But at the end of the day, I've got limited time. You just gotta go. So here I play king g8, intending to take the pawn because there's no longer a pin with bishop d4. Anish plays f4, and now I go bishop g7. And here he plays this move h4, which is a big mistake. Now the funny thing here is that at this point I was down over 2 minutes. I'm down 2 minutes and 20 seconds, and I was basically thinking, while Anish was thinking, I was calculating, what am I going to do? Now against many moves like rook d8, knight d4, c5, etc., I had an idea in mind, but I didn't have an idea against h4, and then Anish played it, and I panicked here by playing b5. Now the computer says that after h5, black is simply much better, because after white trades here and plays the same move like knight d4, I can plop the bishop on g4, the bishop is guarded by the pawn, and after white moves the rook to d2, now I can simply go c5. Let's just say white goes knight b5, for example. I can go rook c8, and this bishop covers all these critical squares. You can't push the pawn, you can't create the kebab, and just in general, black should be doing completely fine. So after h4, I just play b5 quickly. Again, I didn't see what to do, and I decided, you know what? I'm going to play for something active where at least when I make this move, I know what is going on. Here Anish trades the pawns, which I think is a slight mistake. Probably should have played rook d8, bishop e6, and after takes knight d4. This is still a little bit scary, hard to play for black. Maybe I can take, but this endgame, again, with this bad bishop on g7, the double pawns, the weakness on e6, the control of the d file, white will have great chances to win this game. Instead, Anish trades the pawns, goes knight c3, I go c6, knight to e4, and now after bishop to e6, I think I'm doing completely fine. And the reason is that when you're playing a game without increment, specifically Blitz or Armageddon, you need the flow. If you're the one down on the clock here, but you have the draw odds, you need the flow where you can make a lot of moves very, very quickly. And once I get to this position, my ideas suddenly become very obvious. I want to put pressure on the pawn on b3. So one idea is to go rook a3 and try to win the b3 pawn. I can also create a wooden shield with bishop to d5 as well. And last but not least, if the knight goes to d6 or c5, there might be a bishop f8 removing the knight from those two squares. So at this point, my moves become very easy, and Anish is not able to keep the tempo or the flow. As we like to say, he's not able to master the tempo. So he goes knight d6, I play rook d8. He now goes g5, we trade the pawns, and I go rook a3, putting pressure on this pawn on b3. Here, Anish decides to play b4 here, and I go rook d to a8. Now, I could have maybe played rook a4, bishop c5, and then rook a8, but again, at this point, I'm just trying to play for the classic flow. So I go rook a8, we get bishop c5, I go bishop f8, and now, of course, it's on Anish to prove something. And this is, when I say the moves are difficult, the problem White has here is there's no push on the king side. The pawns are fixed here. f5 just hangs a pawn, so you can't do anything with the pawns. Now, you can play knight e4, which is an idea, or you can trade the rooks. But even if you get knight to e4, for example, and we get some position like this, what exactly is your plan? How are you going to proceed? f5 still hangs a pawn. You can't really sack the rook. You don't want to trade the rook. Maybe you go knight d7, knight f6, but none of the plans are obvious. You're going to have to spend time, and due to the draw odds, it becomes increasingly difficult. So Anish plays knight b7. I play bishop d5, creating the wooden shield, but also stopping the infiltration on the d file here. Anish trades the bishops, and now he plays this move knight to a5, which is simply a mistake. What Anish should have played was knight to c5, but nonetheless, after a move like rook to a2, rook d2, and rook a1, it's very hard for White to do anything. I'm trying to go rook g1. If he goes rook d1, rook a2, I'm going to go rook g2, and as I said before, White cannot make a draw because a draw is the same as a loss in an Armageddon game, so I can't really fault Anish. So Anish plays knight a5, I go rook a4, rook d4, king e7, and now Anish plays king f2. Now, for a split second, Anish went for the rook to move his rook to c1, and it's a shame he didn't do it, because if he had done this, I would have been able to sack the rook for the knight on a5, and after pawn takes rook, rook takes d4, I simply have an extra bishop, and I'm completely winning. But Anish plays king f2 after realizing the blunder, but now I go rook h8, and it all is sort of falling apart now because I have infiltration on the h file and the a file. I have a wooden shield, the knight on a5 is not in play, and at this point, I think the game is close to over. So Anish plays king g3, I go rook a2, threatening mate in 1, with rook to g2, rook d2, rook a1, rook d1, rook a2, and now I keep checking and keep threatening to go rook g2, and finally here, Anish decides to sack the rook for the bishop. Now, Anish, of course, could have made a draw with rook d2, but as I said before, a draw is the same as a loss here, so he valiantly decides to follow the memes and sack the rook. But unfortunately here, sacking the rook doesn't lead to anything special. So I take the rook, takes back, and now I go rook c8. Very, very nice move here, because if White takes the pawn on b5, I can go check, king g4, check, king h2, and maybe there's a way to actually checkmate, but I would have just made the draw here by checking the king back and forth, and that would have been good enough. Instead here, Anish plays king f3, I check, king e4 check, king d4, and now I check on d2. He takes, I take the rook here, and at this point, White is actually okay here, but Anish blunders with knight c6, or knight b7 rather. If he had played knight to c6 here,
Bro,
after
how
king
is
to e8
White
and knight to
okay
d4,
there and
White
down
still maybe has some chance to keep the
rook
game
for a
going,
knight?
because the
That's
knight
crazy.
is targeting the pawn on b5, but probably here it still should be a draw after king f8, king f3, and say rook d8, king to e4, and now move like rook to c8, because I'm going to go rook c4 and win the pawn on b4. King d5, rook c4 is one example of it, and if White takes, we get this position. While White should draw this, a draw is not good enough. Instead, Anish plays knight b7, I go king d7, checks, I go king c6, knight e4, and now I go rook d1, trying to go rook f1 and win the pawn on f4, and the game concludes with knight d6, rook f1, he takes, and now I tickle him with rook to f3. King cannot move forward, because after takes, you simply lose the knight. So Anish goes king d2, I take, knight h8, I take this one, he takes that one, I go rook g4, and after e6 takes knight f4, I go king d6, trying to eliminate the last pawn on e6, at which point White can no longer checkmate me. So Anish goes king c3, I check, he goes to b2, not b4, because rook g4 wins the horse. King b2, I play rook g4, knight e2, I take, he goes knight c3, and now I go king to d7. One last little nuance here, which is White cannot grab the pawn, because after rook to b4, you would lose the knight. And when he goes king b3, and I go king c6 here, with the rook and the pawn versus the knight, it's completely hopeless, and Anish resigns the game, And for the first time in this tournament here in Norway, I actually do win the Armageddon game, and I get the all-critical extra half point because of that. So at the end of the day, Fabiano would continue to expand his lead. He won a very nice game against Gucci Reza Firouzja. But for me, I'm focused on the classical portion. I feel like I'm doing very well. If I get chances to try and win some games like tomorrow when I have the white piece against Tari, I will take my shot, try to catch up to Fabiano if I can. At any rate, I'm very pleased with my result. I've been very steady, but we will see how the rest of the tournament goes. So once again, I hope you guys have enjoyed this recap. I will be back tomorrow with another recap, obviously, after my game against the Norwegian number 2 player, Aryan Tari. But at any rate, hope you guys enjoy that. Make sure to hit that subscribe button below if you haven't already. And I will be back very soon with some more great YouTube-only content. See you guys. Bye.
Oh, my people, my people. Appreciate you guys stopping by. But I didn't sleep very well last night, unfortunately. So I'm very tired. I'm very tired. Very tired. Watch this.
Ladies and gentlemen, Norway Chess 2023 is getting real spicy. Welcome back. It's round number 4, and in today's video, I'm going to be taking you through multiple different storylines, including a new number 2 ranked chess player in the world, a man who is absolutely on fire. I will show you the games of Hikaru, I will show you the games of Magnus, and I will give you an update on the overall standings. Today, a very big and important thing happened in the world of chess. Magnus Carlsen shaved his beard. Now, this is a big deal. He's had some facial hair for quite some time, so we can calculate the metrics of how he performs with and without a beard. I feel like this is like what, major news stations would do based on LeBron James. This is currently happening in the National Basketball Association. 2 teams are in the NBA Finals, but the media is still talking about LeBron. So, Magnus's opponent today was Gukesh, very strong Indian teenager, and actually Gukesh defeated Magnus in the Blitz tournament before the event. Gukesh began with an Italian, knight f6 played by Magnus, and relatively boring stuff that I will not really bother you with. Magnus played the move a5. This is a preemptive holding back of the white position. Gukesh castled, bishop d7. Bishop d7 is certainly not a move. I mean, it is, but I think in general that if black is going to play this setup, black really should be playing for g5. If black, if this bishop is coming out to h4, this is the most, this is kind of the thing that white is prepared for the most. Magnus thinks for 6 minutes and plays bishop d7. Gukesh immediately plays the move knight to a3, and Magnus just takes. Gukesh takes back, and now Magnus plays this, and Gukesh has to think on his own. And it was at this moment, you know, Gukesh spent 20 minutes. Now, the move Rook B1 in and of itself is not something that you need to spend 20 minutes on, but this was Magnus's attempt at getting Gukesh out of his comfort zone. And he said as much. I am not putting words in Magnus's mouth. Magnus said in the confessional booth, which is this thing they have during the games, the players can go and they have a private area to record things to the public. Magnus said, the guy is really well prepared, so I figured I would be a little bit worse, but at least I would get out of his preparation. Magnus gives up a very decent bishop to damage white structure over here. Gukesh plays Rook B1. This move is probably not worth spending 20 minutes on because it's a very natural move. Magnus definitely had something in mind and virtually instantly played the move Rook B8. I mean, literally without, any hesitation. 30 seconds is hardly any hesitation at all. And now Gukesh plays Bishop B5. This clearly was Gukesh's idea. Did he have to play Bishop B5? No, he had a lot of options. Could have played A4, could have already played D4 because this pin is not really doing too much. You can't take on E4, so Bishop to B5. And now he does this, and it's very clear that he wants to play D5. It's also very clear that if Magnus takes on D4, Gukesh still has D5. And if you play something like this, I can actually just sacrifice. Like, my position is so strong that all these different things are coming in, Bishop C6 and so on. I'm also threatening take, mate. So position looks very promising. Magnus plays Bishop G4, take, and now we're gonna have a lot of pieces fall off the board. Pawn takes pawn, Bishop takes knight, Rook takes rook, Queen takes rook, Queen takes, and now Knight D7. If Magnus had played here, he would have gotten a completely losing position. This would have been under fire, and this, and this, and this, and this. So, Knight D7 is played, and this. Now, Gukesh is a pawn up, but he has double day pawns that are not really impressing anybody. And Queen F5 can threaten a couple of things here, right? Rook D1, all these different ideas. Gukesh has several pretty ambitious approaches. Thinks for some time, and he plays something that isn't as accurate. Like, again, lining up here is what the computer liked. Just in general, rerouting this way. But Queen E2, okay. And now Bishop here. But now this gives Magnus enough time to create counterplay here, and then create just all the counterplay in the world, right? Rook, Knight, Queen on the B file. And what happens is we get all the central pawns gone. Gukesh is still a pawn up, but that's his extra pawn. It's not particularly impressive. Bishop E3, and so on, Rook E6, and this knight is hanging out here, but you may ask yourself, right, the bishop had to be defended, so we attack the queen. More pressure here, and Gukesh takes. I mean, Gukesh did not have to take. He could have come back, but it really seemed like this game he was just trying to keep Magnus at bay, and he does not have a good pawn structure. Magnus gets a pawn back, and Gukesh is like, but I won't lose, which I gotta tell you is definitely a legitimate strategy, but I won't lose. Also, he might win. Like, this is a very, very decent way for black to lose this game, is to accidentally end up in a losing king and pawn endgame. This is not lost, but it's very annoying and it's very close. So Queen D8, and around this moment I thought, all right, well, Magnus is just gonna win this game with black. I mean, right, it's Magnus. Like, that's what he does. This is literally how he beats people. He just takes a while, and Magnus very slowly, very methodically was advancing his pieces, his very mobile pawn structure over there, threatening mate. Look at this, 2-on-1, and he got really close. And actually right here was the moment in the game that after some 55 moves, it was a very close advantage to being winning. The computer wanted Queen E5 check here to try to either push the king back and allow black's king in, or to play G3, after which Queen E2 and Queen D1 wins this pawn. Now, clearly, Magnus didn't go for this. Either he did not see this whole sequence, or he thought this is still a draw, but he is a pawn up. But instead of that, he went here. He did not do that. He did not play Queen E5. He played Queen D2 instead, and that was his chance. And he ended up giving up the pawn and trying to create some checkmate threats, and he tried, and he tried, and he tried, but Despite all this, that pawn made it all the way down, and Gukesh fast enough with his counterplay. And this game, after some 80 moves, ends in a draw. And you might feel bored. Well, I got news for you. Don't be. We got more chess. Gukesh with white again. Magnus with black again. Gukesh up 3 minutes on the clock.
I
This
don't
game
even
was
know what
crazy.
opening they did.
Game was
Like, they can get out of prep
a
so
crazy game of
easily,
chess.
and
It was an Italian
bro.
again. And this time it was a6, not knight bd2. Friendly reminder, in the Armageddon portion, if you're very confused about the time or anything like that, white has 3 extra minutes, but if black makes a draw, black wins the game. So black gets 3 less minutes, and this is how points are determined in Norway Chess for the standings. If you're just joining, you don't understand what you're watching, well, you'll be fine. Queen e7, a4. Light squared bishopless position. White wants to play knight e3 and so on, and maybe b5, and maybe d4, and all this good stuff. Take, take. This is the position. And Gukesh wins a pawn on b5. But the thing is, his rook on b5 is going to be very uncomfortable. It can always be trapped as long as I defend the bishop. The a file is just beautiful. And life is good. I'm very happy. G3, knight d7, and Magnus anchors in the bishop. He's going to play c6. He's going to win Gukesh's rook. Sensing this, Gukesh plays d4. The idea is that if you play c6 right away, I'm just going to give up the rook. Then I'm going to go here. And after the dust is settled, I have 2 pawns and a bishop for a rook, which is equal. Your king is weak and you have very big weaknesses. So actually, Gukesh here is asking some serious questions to Magnus's position. He plays c4, gives this up, and continues hammering away. Gukesh is just taking the fight to Magnus Carlsen in this game. Knight d7, and Gukesh has a fantastic position. Not only does Gukesh have a fantastic position, he's crashing in. I mean, Gukesh is calling the shots here against Magnus and doing a fantastic job. He is almost winning. If knight e5, bishop e5, you can't take because that's a fork of the king and the rook. I mean, Gukesh is on the verge of being completely winning against Magnus Carlsen. Magnus plays rook a2, and in this position, Gukesh does something I don't really understand. In this position, Gukesh can just play queen d3, or queen d1, or even queen c4. But Gukesh gets cocky. And he sacrifices his queen. He barely even thought about it. He sacrifices his queen for the rook and the knight. And his idea is these 2 passed pawns. And the knight hitting the rook. Is Gukesh winning? Is Gukesh losing? Is Gukesh a psychopath? What is he doing? Knight f6, e5, look at this. Is Gukesh winning or losing? What is going on in this position? Queen d2, f3. Everything is defended. This is nuts. This is insane. Queen b4, just h3, and he's going to hide his king. He's going to push his pawn and hide his king. Is Gukesh winning or losing? Damn it. What is going on? Black plays king e6. The pawns are blockaded a little bit. Now what? Gukesh plays rook c1 looking for this. Magnus defense. Gukesh plays knight e4 attacking the pawn. The pawn comes forward. Gukesh plays knight d6. The queen is now cut off. Knight f7 ideas. He gives away this pawn to win the pawn on c4. So knight d6, c3. Magnus says no, but knight e4 and the pawns come off. And Gukesh is still playing for a win potentially. I know you can't do this right away, but I'm saying you want to get into the 6th rank and take these pawns. The only thing that Magnus has is the 1st rank. King d8, rook c6. Here comes Magnus. Gukesh kicks him out. Rook c2, solid. Rook d2. Position is good. Bishop back to f2. Magnus has 4 seconds on the clock. Folks, are you seeing this? This man Magnus Carlsen has 4 seconds on the clock. Bishop g3, rook a1, e6. Gukesh is going for it. He's going for the win. Queen c1, bishop d6, king e6. Magnus takes the pawn. Gukesh makes a run for it. The knight is guarding everything. Is Gukesh winning or losing? h5. Oh no. Magnus hangs knight g5. Oh my goodness. Gukesh can just come back or play rook d5. Rook d5 check, king g6. Knight e4 back by Gukesh. But Gukesh plays here. Fork. And the game is over. Magnus Carlsen wins. close. Oh my goodness, what a game. I mean, this man nearly sacrificed his queen and defeated Magnus Carlsen. That was unbelievable. So Magnus wins. Magnus
Bro.
wins, and my friends,
I'm not winning
That's
even
not
if
the
I
end
have
of
a
the story.
queen, bro.
we had another
That's
absolutely
crazy.
massive result today. Not just for the tournament, but for world ranking, so stick around. Ali Reza Firouzja, Fabiano Caruana, two of the players that are having tremendous success in this event. Fabi plays a French. Fabi looking for a fight. Fabi had the French played against him in the first round of the tournament when he played against Magnus. Well, now he plays Magnus' opening. I mean, it's not Magnus' opening, but Fabi playing the fabulous French. Isn't it fabulous when Fabi plays the French? All right, I'm going to stop. Classical French. E5, knight d7. This has all been seen before. Now, in the Magnus game, we had a6. That's what was played in that game, followed by some queen b6 stuff. Fabi plays take and queen b6. This is one of the variations where you try to put some pressure on this pawn. In many lines, like for example, white can play a3 here. You can't take because the queen gets trapped. But there is queen d2, just giving up this pawn, queen a3. And in this position, I am familiar with rook b3, I know is some line. And there is also a line bishop b5. I think bishop b5 has been very, very trendy as of late. You know, there are some screaming children outside of my window, and I cannot tell if like somebody is. I don't know if y'all can hear this, but this is like pretty crazy. Like I think there's either 10 kids or one extremely loud one, and yeah, they be yelling. Guess it's Saturday. Kids be getting turned outside or whatever. Anyway, knight b5 is the move that Firouzja chooses to attack this queen on a3, queen a2, knight c7, and he comes back. You'll notice that black has spent no time, and Firouzja has spent a very limited amount of time. Clearly in this variation, white is deliberately giving up 2 pawns on
Bro, where
a2 and b2.
where's Fabiano
but
coming
it's
from,
very
bro?
difficult.
Like I know he's a top GM, but he seems to have turned it up a notch this season, bro. He seems to have turned it up quite a bit. It's crazy. It's crazy.
For black to make any moves. Black can't castle, right? Knight c5. Firouzja plays bishop d3. Take. And Fabi plays bishop d7. Now, if I were to ask you, what is the most natural move in this position for white? Most natural. No, I couldn't get the crack out of my neck. The most natural move by far is castles. It's just castling. And then continuing some attack. Firouzja here plays a move that's kind of crazy. He plays knight d6. And he spent some time on that move, and Fabi was like, okay, bishop takes. And what if I just go here? Fabi is up 2 pawns. If Fabi trades all the pieces, he's going to be winning because he's up 2 pawns. And the entire, like, element of white's position that makes sense is the pieces in the attack. After this move, I think Firouzja just really overestimated his position. And Fabi just plays f6. And the idea of f6 is a solid central barrier and a little bunker for the king on f7. Ali Reza takes on c6 check after some 20 minutes of thought. Plays queen a5. And just is ready to walk his king. In fact, he is the one checkmating. It is Fabiano Caruana who is checkmating Ali Reza. It is not, and it is not reverse. And also, Firouzja cannot castle anymore. And you may be asking yourself, isn't queen a8 check winning a rook? Yes. Yes. Yes, it is. It is winning a rook. In fact, Fabiano planned this entire thing back here. B takes c6.
Hey, what's up, Castle
Queen A5?
Rascal? I appreciate you stopping by, watching
The whole thing was planned.
some Norway chess, watching these pros go at it.
We need to. He planned the whole thing. Fabi gave up a rook. Fabi gave up a rook. Fabi's going for mate. You castle, mate. You go here, mate. Alireza Firouzja is up a full rook. But his rook can't move, and his other pieces can't do anything, and this queen's not threatening anybody. The queen needs 2 moves, and I got news for you. It doesn't have 2 moves. Fabi just plays c5. See, if Fabi didn't play c5, queen d8 would have been a problem.
Bro,
But
it
Fabi
was.
plays c5 because now after queen d8, you just play queen e4.
And then you take.
You take. Here comes the bishop.
And yeah. It's mate.
Brutal. h4 played by Alireza. And takes. Takes. Check. Takes. Check. Takes with check. Check. Check.
Ugh.
Fabiano Caruana
Oh.
just did his best impression of a vacuum cleaner. This man said, let me clean up all this garbage. Let me grab the bishop. Let me grab the rook.
Oh my
Let me
gosh,
grab this
bro.
pawn with check.
The
Let me
windmill,
grab
bro. The
this
windmill.
pawn with a check, forcing your king back. Let me check you again into another check. This man has the walkway, the Hollywood Walk of Fame right here. Look at
Bro,
this.
connect the pawns. Do it.
Dude,
Connect the
dude,
pawns.
Dude. And Alireza Firouzja resigns as his queen is trapped in the corner. And Alireza is not going to save this endgame with black having 5 extra pawns. Fabiano Caruana is back up to the #2 rated player in the world. Damn. And he did it in style. Damn. Meanwhile, you know who else is cooking? Hikaru. He drew his game against Anish Giri very quickly with black. They went to an Armageddon. Hikaru played the Berlin because he's playing black, right? And this is the mainline Berlin. Like, this is the endgame. This is the opening that killed chess. H3, bishop d7, bishop e7. And this is just like this opening that's an endgame with rooks and minor pieces. And black essentially says, you gotta beat me. Well, Anish did his best. He centralized all his pieces. He played very nice positional chess, putting his rooks in the center. Right? And he's trying to poke at the dark squares, but look at the time. Hikaru confident. Nice and easy. King g7. Absolutely equal position. Bishop rotating backwards. Rook to centralize. Anish trying to make forward progress. Look at Anish. Just
I
every
would have
piece getting
sacrificed a
involved.
rook at this point. Just
H4. Look at this.
stupid.
B5, Hikaru tries to break on the other side of the board, but he's safe with pawn to c6. But now here comes Anish on the dark squares. All right, he's going to try to infiltrate on the dark squares. Bishop e6, g5. Anish taking life away from the dark squared bishop, but Hikaru's just sitting there in his bunker. B4, oh. Now Hikaru's looking to trade that knight. Now Hikaru's centralizing the bishop. Trade. Rook a4, Hikaru asking questions. And here comes, look at this. The pendulum, the infiltration from both sides. Here comes one rook. The other rook's coming down as well. Hikaru dancing. He knows Anish can't make a draw, so Anish sacrifices a rook, but here come Hikaru's rooks. Gets it down to a rook versus knight. The king is going to arrive. One pawn is going to fall. Another pawn is going to fall. A third pawn is going to fall. And it was in this position, after 70 moves, Anish Giri resigned. Hikaru doing well, Magnus winning some matchups, Fabiano Caruana cooking the tournament. My friends, after 4 rounds of action, these are your standings. Fabiano Caruana is up to 10.5 points, bro. 3 wins in classical chess, 1 win in Armageddon, 10.5. Hikaru is in 2nd place. Magnus is in 8th. Now, a couple of wins in classical, and Magnus is back up there. But that's wild stuff. This is a crazy standings table. Magnus he's got to catch up, and they have played 4 out of 9 rounds. The tournament is halfway done, and Fabiano Caruana is cooking in the kitchen, and it is spicy. chess is better when Fabi's cooking. So I will see you back here tomorrow for the 5th round. Get out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Gotham headquarters to your homes around the
All right,
world,
y'all.
or maybe even the galaxy, if
I am very tired. I didn't sleep very well last night, so I will be on again tomorrow. I appreciate you guys stopping by. Appreciate you guys taking the time. Castle Rascal, give the stream a follow, brother. I'll play some chess with you tomorrow when I get on, brother. I do play chess with my community. I'm a community streamer on chess.com. I've done some tournaments and stuff like that with the community. So yeah, when you have somebody like Gotham Chess explain it, it's very, very interesting. So I appreciate you stopping by, Spencer. Appreciate everybody who took the time to come back from yesterday, and hopefully after a good night's sleep I'll be in better spirits, and yeah, and we'll just keep pressing till Tuesday when I get some news about when surgery is going to be scheduled. So I hope you guys have a good night. I hope you guys stay safe out there. Love each other. Call somebody, bro. Call somebody, text somebody that you know that you haven't talked to in a while, and tell them that you love them, man. Because life is short, bro. Your life can change in the blink of an eye, and you never know when you will not get to say those words again to somebody. So call somebody up. I will see you guys tomorrow. Stay safe. But as always, Spartans, hold the line until next time.